Alrighty, well, I'm really excited. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Drama School Diaries. I am joined, as always, with my lovely co-host, Maravik.
Guevara, hello.
Nice to see you. We're short one host today. Tennille will not be able to be with us, but that's okay because we're going to keep going. And we have somebody with us today that I'm really excited. Maravik, do you want to introduce him?
Yes, this is the incomparable Mr. Jerry Freedman. Who won Teacher of the Year. He has a background in, he's got numerous awards for being an educator, but he's also originally from New York. Taught in the Bronx for a few years, but now is in LA and has been a fantastic mentor, and not just like educator, but just a friend also over the years. And we really love him. So,
and I think his major claim to fame is that he got to teach me and Maravik at Los Angeles County High School for the Arts.
Wow, lucky me.
Yeah. Welcome, Mr. Friedman.
Thank you. Really an honor to be here.
We're really excited to have you. I'm super pleased to have. This is literally, for those of you who probably won't know unless you're affiliated with LACSA, the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts. Mr. Friedman is literally a legend. He started there in the very beginning. Is that correct?
Yeah, technically, to be legal about it, I was there before anyone ever graduated. It was the beginning of the first year. They only had sophomores and juniors. Second years, when I came, they had seniors, juniors, and sophomores. No freshmen yet.
That's pretty crazy. Wow. Wait, so there was just the 3 years when we went there as well, but you started, was it 1986?
86.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
86 or 87, I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, it was 1986, I think, according to the website. But and one of the things that I didn't know until we recently saw you at the gala that they did for LACSA is that you were there at the beginning with another well-known name, Anthony Anderson. He was like one of the first people.
Yes. Anthony was a student of mine. And then, I didn't pay much attention to the name Anthony Anderson. I didn't watch most television shows. I didn't know about Blackish, and I didn't know about some of the other things, and that he was a superstar. I didn't realize that. He was a nice guy and quiet kid, everything like that. I'd never expected.
Really? A quiet kid?
I wouldn't say quiet kid is exactly right, but he was not, he didn't seem like he would end up being Anthony Anderson, the one that everybody in the world knows. But I was also honored when he called me out at the gala. He was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess being there that you've been there for all of it, you're still teaching there now, correct?
Yes, I can't retire.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, really, didn't you go through something recently where you were trying to retire and the kids just revolted?
No. What happened was when the schools, interesting story. When the school started, they didn't hire any specific teachers from the county because nobody knew if the school would survive. The arts program was so expensive that the Board of Education, the state legislature funded it for 3 years.
Wow.
At the end of the 3 years, the school itself or the county was responsible for funding it, and they didn't have any idea if they could afford to fund it. So I was told they hired just teachers from different school districts in the county. And when I wanted to move into the county and get the job forever. And they said, don't do it, because if you come into the county, you will have left LA Unified and then you'll be out of a job there. And if the school doesn't make it, you'll be out of two jobs. So be on loan. And so I said, okay. So for the first few years, I was on loan. I kept worrying about it. But then when they started to make it okay, and looked like the school was permanent, and I was back every year, I forgot about it. 15, 20 years later, they come and say, we've got some teachers who were forced out of their job in other county schools, and they're looking at you and say, why do we not have a job in the county when we have 10, 15 years seniority, and you're on loan from LA Unified with no seniority? So I was told to leave and to go back to LA Unified, and I couldn't do that. I mean, after LACSA, how do you go back to a real normal school? You can't do that.
Yeah.
So then the kids took it on their own. They started making up their own T-shirts, the Save Freedman T-shirts. They walked out. One of my former students worked for the LA Times. He was a reporter for the LA Times, he couldn't come because he was conflict of interest. So he told another reporter to come, and he came with a cameraman. There was a front page article in the entertainment section of all the kids
Wow.
walking out, and they walked out in the middle of the school day, and picketed the principal's office in front of the main office there on the campus.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
eventually they came back, and this happened a few times until finally county said, I guess what happened is the county came back to the Board of Ed at LA Unified and says, don't let him come out anymore because we can't get rid of him. We want, you know. So, I mean, if someone gets hired for one day, they have seniority over me after I've been there for 20 years because mine was all on loan. And all my seniority was accrued to LA Unified.
It's crazy, the red tape.
You know, so all of a sudden, LA Unified says, I'm sorry, but you have to come back. I said, wait a second. Why? He says, well, our policy is you can't stay out more than 5 years. Wait a second. You let me stay out 25 years. Now you're telling me I have to go back after 5 years?
Wow.
Anyway, so I retired. But then I went back to LA. I said, in California, you can't get a full-time job and a pension. If you're getting a pension, you can only work part-time unless you take a year off. And if you took a year off, they'd hire somebody else and I would be out of it. So I retired and I applied for a part-time job. I could get a part-time job and a pension. They couldn't give it to me. They had to post it on the internet for legal reasons, and everyone has the opportunity to apply for it.
Oh my God.
So I had to apply for my job and compete with like 50, 100 people. Anyway, so they called me down to Downey and they're interviewing me. And they asked me, what would you do in this situation? I said, well, when I was chairman of the Social Studies Department at LACSA for 25 years, what I used to do was, and then I'd answer the question.
Nice.
I got the job.
Yeah.
So for the last like 10, 12 years or so, I've been there part-time. And then when I teach them like 3 days a week, and then I say, if you need a sub on the other days, call me, you know. So once in a while I go in and I sub too. That video that was about from the lottery that they did about me, I mentioned about a friend of mine who retired 20 years before I did. I mean, I haven't retired yet, 20 years ago. And he goes on all these tours on these cruises. I had 20 years of students versus tours, you know. I mean, we're all going to be gone someday. We can look back on how many tours you had versus how many. And there's a quote, I think it's an old Jewish expression. If you save one person, you save the world. I had a teacher who changed my life. To me, in my world, that was, if I can have that effect on a student, you come back for another, how do you compare that to retiring? I mean, I walk around like an old man until I come into the building, and then I get the energy from the students, and I'm bouncing around, and I'm just feeling full of energy again.
Well, since you mentioned that, I want to be able to clarify for our listeners, because I want to pull up and play just a clip, an audio clip from that commercial. It's with the California Lottery and the Haim sisters, or the band Haim, Danielle, Estee, and Alana. I say this now, and I actually came back and taught myself. I taught for a small time with Stephanie, and so I know Alana and Estee. But yeah, I wanted to play this so you guys can get a little glimpse of what he's talking about.
As a teenager, I feel like you go through life thinking like, I would just want my voice to be heard. Someone listen to me. Mr. Freedman was the first person to really give us his ears.
I definitely think he changed the way I thought about school. I remember him starting some of the lessons with just listening to music. He got us all newspapers, talk about current events.
He would always bring it back to history and really open our eyes about what was going on in the world.
I had a world history teacher in high school who was the first adult who made me feel okay in an adult's presence, and it changed my life. I wanted to be like him and do for students what he did for me. Oh, did I collect the homework yet? So could you pass this around?
Mr. Freedman?
Hi, Mr. Freedman.
Oh my God! Oh,
Surprise!
Surprise!
you know who this is?
Group up.
Oh my God! I can't believe this. Mrs. Haim, this is unbelievable. This is fabulous.
So cool. Oh my God.
How come you came today?
We were asked to honor a teacher that really changed our lives.
I have friends who have retired 20 years ago, and all I could think of is the generations of students they never met. So they tell me all the cruises they went on. That's not the same as having you and you in my life.
Yeah, Mr. Freedman.
Oh, it's true.
Anyway, that was all. I just wanted to play that for you guys. I just think that's really awesome, an awesome experience that you got. But I feel like it's pretty much like what we all feel about you. But being able to do it, we jumped into it straight away. I want to back up a little bit, but that's like to just finish off that. I just feel like that's what we're all feeling because there's just so many years of teaching that you've done and so many students that you've affected. So that must be powerful for you.
Just 65 years worth.
Yeah. So you started 65 years ago. Did you start back in New York?
Yeah, let's see. I student taught my last semester in college in the Bronx at Roosevelt High School. Then I taught at junior high school 82 in the Bronx for a year. Then I ended up coming to Queens for 15 years at Flushing High School. And I'm still in touch with some of those students. I'm friendly with some of them. They were in their 70s. And when I started student teaching, I was 20 years old, which means and there were students who were like 17, which means whoever's around from those days is in their 80s. So, and my students this year are freshmen, they're 14. So between 14 and 80.
You've got quite the range.
Yeah, but it's all about paying forward, paying it back and forward for this teacher who changed my life.
Would you say that was like the first teacher that you remember really?
The only one.
Oh, really?
But it's not like he taught me so important about teaching about the American Revolution or something like that. It was the personal feeling of self-worth and encouraging me and not judging me in a negative way. And that is priceless. And it's hard to define how you do that. But I had this strange, after I was teaching for about 10, 15 years in Queens, I got a notice that I bought a house and then there was a homeowners meeting at the local high school. So I go to the high school for the homeowners meeting. The principal comes out to welcome everybody. He says a few words and walks away. It was that principal. It was my high school history teacher.
What?
I jumped out of my chair, ran out of the back of the auditorium, chased him down the hallways and said, Mr. Michelson, I'm sure you don't remember me. And I don't know if he did or not, but you changed my life. And if I can, pay it forward, I'm going to be doing that, and I'm still doing it.
That's amazing. I kind of always wondered what the impetus behind being able to teach for so long and so dedicated would be. Because I mean, we were there in the 90s. I know I always hate to bring up when we were there, but we were there in the late 90s. And you taught us economics. That was my class.
AP government.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't in the AP. So I wasn't. Yeah, I do remember economics though. And I remember our class being so good because for me, I can clearly remember that was one of the biggest and best classes that I took back at any kind of, educational environment because you engaged us so much. We were always, you let us share our opinions. And I remember back then I had some weird opinions and you would let us, debate and talk and structure it and introduce all of that, the newspapers, all of those things. Like and you let us explore, which was really nice. It was the first time I think anybody really kind of let us do our thinking instead of dictating what thinking should be, I guess.
That's, to me, is one of the most important things in education. It's not just memorizing facts. I mean, like I say to the kids today, all right, so now let's see, you're 15, 16, whatever. Let's say that you're 40 years old and you're looking back on your life and you say, gee, I'm so glad I believed everything I believed when I was 15. Would you be pleased with, some things, yes, you believe in equality. Yeah, you don't want to change, but not to let life, affect you. The idea that you would not be open to opinions that maybe not be the same as yours, and you might find a good way of answering those and keeping or you might say, there's something to that.
Mm-hmm.
And let me reevaluate that. And maybe I'll modify, it doesn't go extreme to the other way, but you might modify your own view. This is a democracy where it depends on the people. And if the people are not going to be open to hearing different ideas, how are they going to make the best decisions if they only hear what they're brought up to believe or what their friends say? And what if that's not factual? Isn't that not good for the country? That's the view you're going to have? You have to be open to it. And maybe you can convince other people to your idea once you understand what the other side is and find the weakness in the other side. But to me, that's the most interesting thing, is to look at things from different points of view and evaluate that. And I must tell you, one of my greatest, if not the best, experience I ever remember there was a debate in class. It wasn't a planned debate. The two guys got into an argument. I don't mean a negative, but a disagreement about whatever we were talking about. All right, the class ends. Next class comes in. It's over. It's lunchtime. I walk to the food court, and those two guys are having lunch together.
Aw.
Only in an arts high
love
school
it.
or something about artist sensibility, could that happen? In my day, that would never happen. You wouldn't speak to them again. Or most adults wouldn't want to. If I invited you to dinner and I said, oh, yeah, there's another couple I'm inviting. And by the way, they support, whichever is the opposite of your political view. A lot of people wouldn't come. Well, they,
True.
Yeah.
these guys would have lunch together after that disagreement.
So how did you end up at Loxa? Like, what brought you to an arts high school? How did you?
This is a crazy story. All right, so I married this woman. I met this woman on a vacation out here, and we got married, and I needed a job. So I applied for a job in this very fancy school called Oakwood in the Valley. A lot of well-known people in the arts and whatever. And I fly out for the day, and I interview, and I get the job. And I'm teaching there, and I'm feeling almost back like in the old days, like, what is this poor boy from the Bronx doing here? And like, for example, one day I had one of my students, parents wanted to speak to me, thought she could be doing better, and what could we do to help her get better? So they block off everyone else from my room, and at lunchtime they invite the parents to come in. Door opens up, and in walks Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward.
Oh my God. Of course.
Wow.
So, it was very nice. So, by the way, their daughter now just wrote a play. I think she's on Broadway. And she just was in Downton Abbey, too. She was a co-star there. Melissa. Anyway, and so I left. I quit. It was crazy. Anyway, I ended up spending 6 years in continuation schools at LA Unified with gangs and kids getting shot on the weekend and not really teaching, just giving them work to copy out of a book and turn it in and I check it. And I was almost on the verge of taking my wife and her children, my 3 stepchildren, back to New York. And I read an article in the LA Times about a new arts high school opening up in the campus of Cal State LA. And I apply for the job. And
just no major background in the arts or anything like that.
No, because it was the academic side, and they weren't relating the arts to the academics. And I applied for it, and I was a finalist, so I come in for the final 3. It's over. I called my wife from the school saying I didn't get it because the principal never asked me any questions. He just leaned back and talked to me about the school, and I said, okay. Anyway, I go home, and a couple of days later, I'm driving back into the house, and I pull into the driveway, and I see my wife looking out the window at me. But there was Beethoven's 7th Symphony came on the radio, and I couldn't leave. And she said, so frustrated. And I come in the house, and she said, you got it.
Yeah.
Love that. I couldn't leave the car for Beethoven's
Yeah.
7th Symphony.
And I got it. I don't understand how it happened. But
Was it just kind of like an accidental thing falling into it, or were you drawn to the fact that you were going to be a part of this new?
Oh, no, I was drawn to it.
Mhm.
I mean, as somebody who has zero talent in the arts, but a tremendous appreciation for the arts. I'm a great audience for the arts. It was very exciting, the idea of working with students who could sing, who could act, who could paint, who could, whatever, dance. And I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Where do you think that appreciation for the arts came from?
That's a good question. It came from my father, I think. Again, when I was young, my father loved music, and we were working in this grocery store in the Bronx 7 days a week. He always had the radio on, and he was always singing. Now, this is before rock and roll even. He loved Frank Sinatra and the Great American Songbook, and he had me. And I got to love music that way.
Yeah.
And then when rock and roll started, it changed my life. I loved rock and roll. And there's a side issue about that. I was thinking, why was I so open to, I wasn't as, so this is what I can say, there's racist, there's a lot of people I knew. It was a lot of the African, I'm listening to Chuck Berry, I'm listening to Little Richard, I'm listening to, James Brown. The best part of my early years was listening to music.
Nice.
And I still tell people that the first note of music will change your mood. people who have Alzheimer's, who can't remember their children or their wives or husbands. You put on music, they sing every word from their high school days in music, something about music.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into originally with music. And then I got into dance because of the music that was played when they did the ballets and things like that.
You've been teaching a music history class at
Yes,
Loxa
including now too.
for
Yes.
years, right?
Yeah, I created that.
I think as long as since we were there, I feel like you had it
Yeah.
in the 90s.
We're just doing Renaissance now. We're starting at the Renaissance and going to the present. So right now we're doing Renaissance music and the Renaissance itself.
You also got a chance to perform with
Oh,
us, right? In musicals like
Yes.
Finnegan's Rainbow and
Fiddler on the Roof
Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah.
and West Side Story, and I don't know, and
Did you have to audition for those roles, or were they
were given to me.
given?
I auditioned with them. I'd be in the audience.
We didn't get to have you in a chorus line. There wasn't. I remember that. There, like we were
Yeah.
talking about it. We did a chorus line, but you were in West Side
Evita.
Story
I was in Evita too.
the year before, and I was jealous that they got to have you in West Side Story.
Well, it was interesting because in 1999, the first time we did West Side Story, Josh Groban was Tevye. And last year, we did it again. I was the rabbi and he was Tevye. We did it again last year. I was the rabbi again.
I love
Yeah.
that.
And I called Josh and I had him come to the show. And the cast was crazed, excited about him having come to the show. And then I brought him down to the audience and we talked about it when he was in the show.
What's that like? Being the like it's almost like the arbiter of like all the celebrities of Loxa. It's like I feel like everybody, you know everybody.
I get it's funny because the foundation's going to have a huge 40th anniversary celebration next year, and they contacted me. Can I call the Heim sisters? Could I call Josh? Could I call the? To
get in touch with everybody.
Yeah, and,
I mean, what's that like having taught so many, well-known, faces?
I feel like it's family, and I feel I don't know how to say it. I don't sit there going, oh, like I'm a fan. I just look at them from a different angle. That we go back together a long time. That's why I think we're like family.
Yeah. Any of them that you thought like right from the beginning, you were just like, I know you were saying with Anthony Anderson, he was kind of a quiet kid.
Yeah,
Any of those
yeah.
people that you were just like, oh yeah, I knew that from.
Well, I knew Josh because Josh became famous while he was still at Loxa.
Oh.
What happened was that the governor, got his name, the governor was going to have a big event. He was being sworn in. And Andrea Bocelli was supposed to perform at a big ceremony of his inauguration, and he got sick. And Bocelli's vocal teacher knew Josh's vocal teacher, or was the same. I don't remember, whatever it was. And Josh was 16 or 17, and they had him come to the inauguration and perform.
Wow.
And that started. And then I'm watching on television. It was a variety show, an afternoon variety show. I remember it was very funny because the woman who ran the show invites Josh out, and Josh comes out and sings a song, and then she comes over to him, and he's about to shake hands with her, but she hugs him, and he's got his
Oh,
hand
no.
in her belly there, as she has her arms around him. And he was embarrassed. Anyway, so Josh, before he graduated high school, was already becoming well known. I went to see him perform when he was in high school. He was invited out to perform with somebody who's famous. I forgot, and she brought him out to sing a couple of songs.
I mean, I just think that's always funny that every time I know we went to school with some famous faces and things like that. So it's like, but every time I can think of somebody else like that we know that's well known and they run into you or they see you, it's like they always know who you are. First, it's like when at that gala when I saw Anthony Anderson just run up to you, it's like he knew
Yeah.
exactly who you were.
I keep running to people everywhere. I run to people. The craziest thing was I was in Scotland, and they have the Fringe Festival. It's the most famous one in the world. It's on right now. They have it in the news all the time. I'm walking down the street, and I hear about 7 or 8 people call my name. Turns out the opera class was performing in the Fringe Festival, and they were out taking a walk between shows.
That's crazy.
I see I'm on the subway in Manhattan, and the door opens, and in walks a former student.
We're
crazy.
everywhere.
I love it.
Was there a specific time when you, or remember a moment when you first fell in love with the arts? Because you have mostly an academic, right? And you
Yes.
mentioned music, but like, was there something that you saw, first play that you saw, or a movie, or?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, I just think that it was growing up and not feeling comfortable in my own skin, except when I heard music.
Mm.
And that's what really got me started, I think. I can't think of I think it was accumulation of things, mostly about how art takes you out of yourself and brings you into a different perspective on the universe. And that's all I can think of. And when rock and roll, I remember I went to see this movie called Sidney Poitier, Black Boy Jungle. And this is in New York, Bronx. And movie's over, right? So maybe in LA, some people stay around to see who the credits are because they got people in the business and whatever. Movie's over, I get up to leave. All of a sudden, Bill Haley and the Comets are singing 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. And the whole audience, including me, stops and sits down again until the music. That was the first rock and roll hit. And everything changed from that point on. I love music. And then I was in a much older, 30 years old now. I'm in a record department in a big supermarket, in a big department store, going through the big vinyl albums, and there's music playing in the background. And I'm not paying attention to it, but the music is going on, and I'm dun da dun da 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 dun 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 dun. Hey, what is that? And then I look around, there's nobody working. There's like dinner time, and I see that the stock room is open. It's a long, narrow path, and I see the record going around and around on the record player. I look around, and I run down into the stock room, and I'm turning my head around, trying to read what the label at 33 and a third turns a minute. Eine kleine Nacht. What the hell is eine kleine Nachtmusik? And I tell a friend of mine, I love this music. He said, I've been trying to get you into a class. If you like that, you'll like it. And he puts on another piece of me called Pictures at an Exhibition by Modest Mussorgsky, orchestrated by Ravel. That was it. The last, I don't know, 30, 40 years have been classical music. So I just added it to the rock and roll, and certainly in the 60s with the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, were very big into folk music. And Bob Dylan, if you could say one performance, a friend of mine broke up with his girlfriend. He calls me up and says, I bought tickets to go to see a concert, and I have this extra ticket now. She's not coming with me. You want to buy it? He just wanted to get his money back from him. Okay. So we go to the concert, and this 23-year-old Robert Zimmerman, or Bob Dylan, comes out with a harmonica tied around his neck and a guitar. I never got over that to this day.
Oh my goodness.
It's unbelievable. Nothing affects me as much as like that.
As music, yeah. I mean, I can understand that completely. I mean, coming from an academic background and moving into, the arts a little bit later, I mean, if you were, having to have a conversation with someone who thinks that art programs in schools aren't worth it, like worth the investment, what would you say to them?
Find something else to do with yourself because you don't know what you're talking about. The arts are so central to people's lives. I see it every time I see I watch for example, I had a small role in Evita high school. We did it at Loxa. I'm on the Rainbow Tour. We're going to Europe, and I'm standing on the side of the stage, and the young woman who's playing Evita is in the previous scene. She's standing on a table and she's singing to the whole audience. She's the only one on the stage. The lights go out. She comes off. The orchestra starts playing. They're changing her costume. And I'm standing right behind her, and the kids who are working behind the stage, they're trying to put on, and they're getting stuck. They can't get something to fit on her, and the orchestra is slowing down. It's about to put the lights back on. She turns to me and says, "Oh, I got this great joke," and she starts telling me, and I'm sweating it out. And she tells me the joke. They snap it on. The lights go on. She hits her mark. She goes out, and the audience had no clue. In my class, she sits there quietly. You come and see some of these people, they're different people when they're doing their arts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's total. Or a pianist playing a Beethoven piano sonata. You know, who would know? Just
So quiet, and then all of a sudden,
yeah,
just this crazy, fiery talent comes out of them.
yes,
I also love that about Loxa, to be honest. You just reminded me of that, is that it was the first school I ever went to that would let us incorporate our arts into academic homework and our projects and things like that. They would let us
Present with like a song
write
or
a
a
song,
dance
yeah.
and tell us about the revolution,
Madam Klieger, like Madam Klieger, who's always been a favorite of mine. But she would let us sing songs in French for extra credit and things like that, and anything that she was one of my faves. Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that.
Can I ask, in what ways does arts education prepare students for life beyond like the stage or the camera or the studio?
Whenever I see somebody have an assignment in the arts, if it's doing a play, whatever, they are so focused on the getting ready to perform or paint or whatever. They are focused beyond. They're never focused as much as anything as preparing for the arts. They know it's never like, look, if I give a history assignment, all right, they'll copy something out of a book and turn it in. But when they're doing the arts, they have to be that person or whatever it is they're doing it, and they commit to it with every ounce of energy in their body. And I'm very respectful and jealous of that.
Do you feed off of that energy like while you're teaching, and then like in terms of, you said you feel energized when you walk into a
Yes.
room and you feel,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it centers me and makes me concentrate. I just thinking about this to myself when I was preparing for school last week, one of my classes, and I just couldn't really do it all. I said, you know what? I need to be in the room 15 minutes before the kids come into the room. And then, or else sometimes it's just while I'm involved with the kids, while I'm teaching, I'll get ideas that I don't get when I'm sitting home thinking about what I'm going to do when I'm with the kids. There's something about being in their presence and knowing I have to do it right now that focuses me, which I don't do it with. It's just just let's say, all right, the Third Amendment to the Constitution, something. All right, I'll write it on the board or something. But when I have to come up with some idea, some way to engage them with the work, if it's closer to the time when they're going to be there, and I can come up with some way that's engages the arts or engages a perspective that's other than just regurgitation, I can think a lot better. That's weird.
Yeah, I just
Mhm.
I can remember that about your class, that was probably one of the only classes that we did that made me feel like it was prepping you for like one of those classes you'd see on TV and like about college or something where everybody was sitting around, debating and discussing and talking about things on one side or another. And I don't remember any other class being like that. I don't know about you, but that's something I don't remember.
But what's also interesting is that when your class would leave, another class would come in. It would be a different class, the same subject, but it would be different because you have different people and different questions would come up or different comments. Or the earth has moved around a little bit or something changes, and you have to live. You have to have a general concept of what you want to do, but you also have to live in the moment and respond to things as they're happening.
Is there ever a time that like funding or a lack of funding, like that you were able to observe it, like how it affected the school?
Yes. All right. So I told you before that when the school started, we were funded by the state for the first 3 years. And I was told not to transfer into the county because they weren't sure if the school would last. In the early years of our own foundations, we had some really unfortunate things happen. Are you familiar with French? What do you call it? Someone who designs clothing? Anyway,
Fashion designer?
fashion designer named Givenchy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, Givenchy was coming to California, to Los Angeles, to help raise money for the foundation at that time. And they did a very good job, raised a lot of money. The only problem was the models who came out here flew first class, and they stayed in very fancy hotels. There was nothing left at the end of all the money that they raised. They had to pay for all the cost. All right, a couple of years later, Sammy Davis Jr. heard about the school, and he was wanting to help out. Unfortunately, he had been diagnosed with cancer, but they decided to have a whole evening and where they honor him and as a fundraiser and have people come out and they rented the space and they paid for the food and everything else. And then he died, and all that money was gone. It took a long time, and you could feel it. I mean, you could see we were very fearful of what's going to happen, and they couldn't do as many things as they did now. Now they've expanded the arts. They have programs, departments that didn't exist in those days, cinematic arts and other things.
Oh yeah, we frequently talk about this in here. It's like, and I'm not jealous or anything of all the really nice studios and facilities
Oh
and
my
classes
God!
that they have now.
I'm in. They don't have enough space for me. So they put me in what's called a Henry Mancini lab. And I remember going to a fundraiser 20, 30 years ago. I don't know. Henry Mancini was there, and some other famous people. I forgot Andy Williams, a few other people, to raise money. It's like the highest tech room in the country for arts. But this is for music and and all ways that you use high technology and
It's pretty fancy in there. We went in, you
Yeah,
showed us the
yeah.
sound booth and all the
Ooh.
big monitors and
And every year they update the technology to the latest versions of whatever
Amazing.
is around. And you have 14, 15, 16-year-olds sitting down there and working on all that kind of stuff. It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean that's great that they have it. I just like, what would you say the
Well,
status of arts funding is nowadays? Has it
For
gotten
us,
better?
yes, we have a very good foundation now.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been doing very, very well in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. And the amount of money that needs to be raised for the arts is a great deal. It's not like, a lot of schools that have an art class. We have almost as much time in the arts as I do in the academics, and a lot of staff. And the arts have to be funded separately from the regular tax money that goes to the school. And the foundation, they've gotten to be very good at raising money. I remember meeting John Lithgow, who was here a couple of years ago. He actually did a TV show on public television where he came to Loxa and did a whole thing about arts education. And Loxa was one of the schools that he came to. The foundation they got a lot of contacts in the right places. This is really upsetting to me. Many years ago, I'll get back to that. I'm going to relate it this way. Many years ago, my wife calls me and says, she worked for a place called Jewish Vocational Services. They really provide services for anyone who needs it, but happens to be involved in this case with the Jewish community. And it's for people who've been injured on their job and you try to help them get another job where the injury is not going to be affecting their new job. It's not like if you had a job where you had to lift things, so you get a job all right. A casting agency called Jewish Federation Services. Al Pacino is directing and starring in a movie called Salome. And he is making a documentary about how he directed Salome. And he needs somebody to play a Jewish elder.
Perfect.
My wife calls me and says, "Why? I have the information. Why don't you go and audition?" I said, "What are you talking about? First of all, I don't look Middle Eastern, and I can't act." She says, "What do you have to lose?" So I go for the interview. And when it's my turn, I'm sitting there with people from Greece and Turkey, and people look, Anyway, I go in there, and the two people that have a little handheld camera, and they're talking to me, and they say, "All right, we want you to improvise a scene." And they brought over like a young lady who was working in the office. They put her in a folding chair, and they said, "That's Salome. She's 16 years old. She is from a powerful family, but she is dancing very lasciviously.
Oh, God.
You have to admonish her, knowing that she comes from this powerful family." Okay, improvise. Mr. Pacino will look at all the videos and he will decide. All right, I'm not going to get this. All right. I'm thinking to myself, I've been admonishing teenage girls for years. So She just, and whatever I do, I said, thank you, and I go home. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Mr. Pacino would like you to be in his film. The reason I'm telling you, so I go into we take us in we cast into the desert, and we go past everything, and then there's a house, and we go past a house. In the middle of nowhere, there's like a couple of rooms on the back of a truck. Not rooms, whatever they are. And I'm in the back of a truck. One is his Pacino's changing room. One is for food, and one is for costumes.
Like trailers.
Yeah, thank you. And long day of teaching. So the reason I'm telling you this story is, and I can't believe I'm in some scenes, and Mr. Pacino is standing opposite me, one shoulder, a guy sitting next to me on a big banquet. Over one shoulder is the cameraman. Over the other shoulder is Al Pacino, and he's talking. The reason I'm telling you this is I found out last year Al Pacino came to school and worked with the theater students, and no one told me about it.
Oh my God.
Is it because of that? Like,
No, not because of that. It was just coincidental.
Just coincidental, and you were like, oh.
Yeah, no. Anyway, I'm saying that there are people, and this guy Al Pacino and others, there have been people who have come here, a number of actors, who, if I remember the names, you'd all know that you'd know them, who have come in to work with them. And I'm sure it's the same thing for the, I've gone to, I take a course called music for educators, opera for educators, down at the music center. And we go into the rehearsal rooms on Saturdays, and we sit down, and they have people come in and talk to us about the people who are performing, the conductors and singers, and then they play the music. And some of these people, I know them. They've worked with our LOXA students, and I've seen some of the LOXA students there working with them. So it's changed a lot. When the school started, an example, about the first year we had a college day. About 6 or 8 colleges came to the school.
Wow.
Now we have 3 or 4 colleges per room.
Per room?
Yes, because
Amazing.
they all want our kids. No,
that wasn't even happening when we were going there.
Do you remember?
I'm about to get up and walk out. I'm so mad about that.
I don't remember when you were there, but no one liked the name. Well, the school didn't like the name Lux. How's that going to relate to anybody? What does that mean to anybody? Well, so that you call up the school in the early years, and the secretary would say, Arts High.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
The kids hated that. I said, now I run into people and say, what do you do? I said, I'm a teacher. Oh, really? Where do you teach? I said, I teach on the campus of Cal State. You teach at LOXA? Everybody knows LOXA. I went to a LOXA event at NYU, my alma mater, but not this is a Tisch School for the Arts, packed with LOXA people. They all want us. That we're so well known just because if you run into somebody, from LOXA, the quality is so high. The talent is so high.
I mean, you really did have to be dedicated. I know I'm a little bit jaded. Not jaded, I should say, but biased because we always just had sophomore, junior, senior.
Right.
We were going there.
You know what I always think of is that every time I come into somebody from the past, I always say, let me ask you something. Are the kids as talented as when we were there? They're always talented all the years.
I don't think so. I don't know.
It was just my ear. That's it. That was all.
It's incredible. And last time I said, there are people who, I was stunned to find this out, families who have moved to Southern California, to the county of Los Angeles, so their kids can be eligible to come to LOXA. They've moved from out of state to come here so they can come to LOXA.
Now, do you feel like it's because of the foundation? Do other arts programs and things like that, struggle more because they don't have a foundation like we have? Is that something like, or that they have?
I'm sure that's a contributing factor.
Because I wonder how cuts to the arts, especially in recent years and things like that, are affecting certain aspects.
Yes, but it's one of the reasons that I know Gustavo Dudamel have started this whole program in central Los Angeles, for minority communities, to give them, loan them instruments and give them lessons, and then they can apply here. But you're right. If you don't have the funding, it's very hard to give the people, unless they come from affluent families, to give them the opportunity to have coaches, to have, lessons and whatever. And then you don't know it. You look at it and say, well, those people aren't as talented. Well, they don't have the opportunity. You give them an opportunity and they'll rise to the top if they're capable.
I mean, what do you think would be lost without programs in high schools like this? Because we were talking about it earlier with other people about how it's just such a different environment, a different place to go to that's free. You have to pay for this to go to college. I wish that's what they would have kept telling me at Locks. It's like, pay attention now, because in a few years, you're going to have to pay a lot of money for this.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me.
No, I just mean, like, what would be lost? Like, if they didn't have programs like this, like if we didn't have arts, like, arts high schools.
Oh my God. Just ask the audience who goes to see any of them perform or goes to see their artwork.
But I mean, we don't just get I know a lot of people from Locks aren't just performers. There's lots of.
Okay, and now that makes more sense to me, because I've a lot of people graduate, Locks, and then they have real normal lives. They're not all on Broadway.
Mhm.
And but I always tell them, and sometimes when we have reunions, I think some of them are reluctant to come and say, "Gee, I'm working in an office someplace or other." And
With this show, it's been a bit of an uphill challenge to get people, because they're like, "You don't want to talk to me. I'm just a mom now," and I'm like, "Yes,
And what I
Yeah,
tell-
we want to.
we want to know
though,
what
yeah.
Right. And what I tell them all the time is, first of all, two things. First of all, whatever you do for a living, you're always an artist. You're not an artist when you come into school, into the art, an academic, you're not an artist, and you become an artist when you go in no, your whole life you're an artist, because that's who you are. And that's
I like
really
that.
important. And that's really important. And you look and you
I do,
see,
because I don't tell myself a lot. Like, I like to say, like, I used to be an artist and stuff like that. But I mean, I appreciate it.
no,
When
you
hearing
are. And the other thing is, when they say, "Yeah, I don't want to go back to the, I'll go back to the reunion," and someone will tell me that they're performing in the arts or whatever, and I'm not, they want to see you. They don't know that. They think that they want to see you only if you, no, you don't give yourself enough credit for who you are as a human being and how they see you as a human being. You walk in the room the first time after they have seen you for 20 years or 10 years, the last thing they want to know is what you're doing for a living. The first thing they want to do is give you a hug.
Exactly.
Because of who you are. I mean, this thing about as I say, I watch these kids live their lives in ways out of the arts room that's never been the same as all the 27 years or so I taught before Locks existed. I'm so jealous of these young teachers who start their Locks at 20s. I was 46, 40s, whatever when I started. But anyway, these people are always artists, and they look at the world that way. They interact with people from different backgrounds differently than the rest of us do.
That's so funny. You're jealous of the teachers that are starting, and I'm jealous of the students that are going there now.
Well, you should be honored that you went there.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. I mean, we always say that it changed, definitely, and that's part of the reason of this podcast, is to bring awareness to what an arts education does for you
Oh,
in all types of success. And I just think that it's been a major part of defining who I am and finding who I am, being able to go there and express myself. And
maintaining the connections that we had still, when we were 15. Now we're
the teachers, the students.
I tell my freshmen, we just started like last week. In October, you come and look at these kids. You would think they've known each other forever. They didn't know each other until August. And they bond so quickly. And I love watching the first day back after the summer. They come back after 2 months or so not seeing. They pick each other up and swinging each other around. They're just.
Yeah, Kenny and I were there for the first day, greeting them in the front,
Yes.
and nobody would take any of the breakfast stuff. They were just like with their
Yes.
friends, like hanging out, and oh my God, how are you? Like you said, running up to them, and just
I love it.
that bond is incredible. And it was never about like race. It was always like, okay, the dancers are here, the
Right.
theater people are here, the music people are here. Like we were segregated by our arts.
What is that line from Sound of Music? By your students, you will be taught. I was learning about, speaking about race, watching, like you say, kids going out together, hanging out. Doesn't matter what their ethnic background, religion, race, gender identification. None of that mattered. If you were cool, a good person, that's what mattered.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get over that. Well, why can't the rest of the world? Maybe you have to be artists to do that. I don't know.
I think so. I think there's something about being an artist that you're vulnerable and the people will just divulge their life story and like the 20 minutes they've known you and then you become instant friends and that lasts forever. I mean, Kenny and I, I was in theater, he was in music, but we hung out with,
They go to
dancers.
see each other perform. The dancers would come
Yeah.
to watch the visual artists, and the theater people would come. Whatever, didn't matter. Just be there.
We're starting to get close to the end, but I'm like super excited. We've been talking about this and having you on in our other episodes and stuff like that. So I'm really thankful that you came down
Me too.
to speak to us because I really wanted people to get an idea of what it's been like to be teaching at LACHSA, since the beginning, and to know, you've seen it all, really. And that's the thing. It's like you've been LA County Teacher of the Year, LA Dodger Education Hero. You've got all these accolades, all these awards.
Most inspirational teacher.
You've been teaching
Nobel Award too.
Yeah.
Wow. I just think like 65 years. So, any major memorable moments that you can think of? I know there's probably a ton. That face that you just made.
I'll tell you, one of the first ones was, I had no self-esteem when I started teaching.
That's hard to believe.
And, the first day I taught when I was student teaching, I was so nervous that I was holding a paper up which had the questions I was going to ask the student. It was shaking so much that it was so loud, I had to put it on the table, which meant I couldn't walk around the room because I needed to see what the next question was. And about 15 minutes into it, the teacher whose room it was I was working with, she came up and put her arm around me and escorted me back to my seat in the back of the room. But what happened was, as time would go on, the kids gave me the respect that I didn't know I deserved, and I got it from them.
Oh.
And I remember that forever. But again, to have Claes Nobel, the head of the Nobel family, I could show you a picture of that. Giving me an award, a teaching award.
That's amazing. Yeah.
My parents had only been alive, to see that. Or like I say, the Dodger out in Dodger Stadium in a uniform and making announcements, putting my picture up over the outfield.
Presented by the mayors. Yeah, you've had like all kinds of stuff.
And this is crazy.
Yeah, I just think that we're really lucky to have had you as a teacher, lucky to have had you on the podcast, and we're still lucky to be taught by you.
That's how I feel about you guys. I'm glad we've stayed in touch on and off all these years.
I think that's also one of the nice things is that even after school, you're still around to be very supportive. And, you also have been very supportive of the arts. I see you. And I think that's what everybody will say about you is that you will see Mr. Freedman at everything. He goes and supports everything.
I'm not doing it because I want to support the arts. I'm doing it because I love it.
Yeah.
It gives me a reason to go on. It just changes my whole life. I'm out of myself and into whatever the art is that I'm watching or participating in or whatever it is at the moment that's happening.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're really lucky to have had as your students.
Do we have rapid fire questions
Yes.
for you?
Okay, so we like to end the show on something that it was kind of started by the French host Bernard Pivot, and it was carried on inside the Actors Studio. I don't know if you ever used to watch that.
I used to many years ago.
Yeah, with James Lipton. And so we kind of did a little bit of a little spin on it, but it's kind of, think of it like rapid fire questions, like a Rorschach test, just first thing that comes to mind. Don't spend too long thinking about it, and we'll just have a little bit of fun, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, Mr. Freedman, what's your favorite word?
Students.
Of course. What's your least favorite word?
Administrators.
What turns you on creatively, or spiritually, emotionally?
Music. Beethoven.
What turns you off?
Modern hip-hop music. Rap music.
What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, I'm not going to say it.
We thought we might finally get you with that. What sound or noise do you love?
Cats meowing.
Oh my gosh. I love that too. What sound or noise do you hate?
Anything that's just loud for the sake of loud. I don't know. I mean, I just don't like anything that doesn't have any, I mean, I don't know, just loud noise.
Garbage trucks or
Is there a profession other than your own that you'd like to have attempted?
No.
No, teaching was always it.
Ever since 10th grade with that world history teacher who made me feel comfortable for the first time in my life, gave me the first bit of self-esteem I ever had.
Mm.
All I want to do is pass it on.
That's awesome. What profession would you not like to do?
Anything else?
At the end of the journey, if your life is a performance, what would you want the review to say?
He gave back what he got from his teacher. That's all I ever think about is helping somebody who needs self-esteem so they can go and change their own lives.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, that's really profound. I think that's probably like what makes a great teacher.
And that's why we love you, is that you keep us going and you always maintain contacts. Like, I remember I was in the middle of the ocean. I did semester at Scene. It was the fall of 2001, like right after 9/11. And you're like, where the heck are you? My Dodgers lost and, or no, my Yankees lost. Sorry. And I was like, you're the only person who would send me a letter in, where was I? South Africa or someplace that got to me somehow. But like none of my brothers and sisters or roommates, or college roommates, it was like, Mr. Freedman, you got mail from Mr. Freedman. I'm like, yay. So thank you for that. I'll always treasure, all the lunches. You'd meet me up in New York or, down here in LA, and just, you would always spark something in me again, especially, just I've known you for more than half my life, and that's amazing. So thank you.
I give thanks to that all the time from my point of view.
That's amazing. I think that's all the time we have, but I really, really appreciate you coming, Mr. Freeman. Thank you so much.
Great seeing you guys again.
Yay.
Yay.
Love it.
I love it. All right. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you guys later.
Hey, before you head out, do me a quick favor, like, follow, and subscribe. It really does help. The more you engage, the more the algorithm pushes us out there, and the more people we can reach about why arts in education matters. If you or someone you know is thinking about an art school, check your local district's website or search Performing Arts High School or Arts Magnet Program with your city. And just so you know, a magnet school is a public school with a special focus, like the arts, that pulls in students from all over with programs you won't find in a regular school. And if you're ready to do even more, hit the link in the show notes for Americans for the Arts Action Fund. They've got easy, fill-in-the-blank templates so you can write your reps about funding the arts and actually make a difference. Thanks for listening, thanks for caring, and remember, keep creating, keep supporting, and keep the spotlight shining on the arts.